Breakfast of Chinese chow and my whiskey sour.
Is this the... Well, I wasn't supposed to be that close to it, I guess. All right. Hello, everybody.
Is it starting now?
Yeah, it's already starting as soon as we get up here.
Oh, am I supposed to be here?
Oh, you want to introduce us? Sorry.
Oh, you're the introducer.
Wait,
Getting real professional now.
yeah, sure, of course. I didn't...
Match your age. Rated me.
I've not been telling anyone off.
All that creepy music. Oh my god. Setting the ambience.
Have some worms, Michael.
I brought you some lunch.
Yeah.
It's not worms. It's definitely not worms.
Is it worms in this? Too?
Isn't that just spaghetti?
Yeah.
Oh, worms.
Ah, gross. Alright.
Probably shouldn't have put a jelly in before I introduce the panel, should I? Good afternoon, Liverpool. My name is Ben. I'm Ian. And we're from the SuperNerds UK podcast. And we're here to interview the amazing G-Tom Mac and Jamison Newlander from the Lost Boys.
Thank you.
How's it going, guys? You okay?
Yeah, doing well. Very excited to be here.
Lack of sleep, but you know.
Sleep all day?
Let's see, sleep all day, party all night. I haven't slept but I haven't bloody well slept all day yet, so what the fuck does that mean?
Hard work and vampire, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like doing these conventions, we do kind of mirror what the Lost Boys went through. We party all night usually, but we don't get to sleep all day. We never sleep.
That's right. You really haven't slept all day.
Cool. To be fair, with the sunglasses on, you could have been getting away with it just at the desk, just draw some eyes on the front.
Yeah, sunglasses.
Well, anyway, it's really amazing to have come this far with 30 years on with this movie, and I can't believe I wrote that song 31 years ago, and it was pretty amazing time. I was living in New York at the time. By the way, I'm originally from Birmingham, England, and this accent that thank you all my Brumby fans, let it be known. But my accent has obviously become somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I'm a big fish, vampire fish at that. But 31 years ago, Joel Schumacher rang me up. He was a fan of my music, and he asked me if I'd write what was to be the theme song for Lost Boys. And I had no idea. I mean, I'd met Joel earlier on. The first time around living in LA, he was working on a movie called DC Cab with Mr. T. Anybody seen that movie? Yeah. So anyway, he wanted me to work on that. I was actually working on Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and couldn't do it. So a few years later on, he tells me this movie he's doing, and they were filming in Santa Cruz, and I said, well, I'd love to see it so I can get a vibe to write the song. And he said, well, we're filming now, what if I sent you a script? And I thought, wow, that's kind of, I've never done that before, just read the script and written the song. So they sent me on the script, I read it, and I was enamored by it. I thought, wow, what a great idea with a horror and humor really come together in the best way. Very well written script. But as I started to write the song, I had a whole other image in my head, as to what the film would look like. So wrote the song the morning of, after reading the script the night before, and it just started to come between my guitar and piano. I was just starting to get the gist of what I felt the film needed as a theme song. And got the verses down at my apartment in the village and in New York, and then started to go uptown and got in a cab, and this guy was blasting some music, and I said, turn it down, and he wouldn't listen to me. I said to close because I started getting a chorus quite a little sister in my head at that time. By the time I got to the studio, the song had pretty much been completely written, and with the exception of the lyrics, and I just started mucking about and just getting the just kind of getting the overall vibe. It wasn't, I hate it when a movie writes the song that the script is already written, you know. I felt that the vampire and the whole vibe of what the vampire needed to be more universal. And that's sort of how the idea, well, it was very imagery when I was writing in the lyrics to Cry Little Sister. And, you know, I didn't want to be, I never liked the idea of being so point on with what it is. And I felt that the, you know, vampire characters all seemed like they were a family, or they were searching for family. And, you know, so I finished up the song, made a demo. I'm going on a bit too long here. Tell me if you're yawning yet. Nobody's fallen asleep. I don't see anybody doing that yet. But anyway, made the demo, sent it, got a couple of kids to come in and do the backing vocal, taught them the parts, and then sent it on to Joel, and he rang me 3 days, rang me in the morning time, and I remember having a serious hangover. And I could hear my answer phone. Remember those things? And he's yelling, "Gee, get on the phone, it's Joel playing your song on set." I'm like, "What?" And then he said, "Man, how did you know?" And Kiefer was on the phone every day, sort of passing the phone around. Brilliant song, all that stuff. So it went in a movie and made a, you know, went and did a proper production on it and everything after the studio approved it and what have you. So, yeah, but it was just synergy at its best. But by the time I got to see the film, it was so not what I thought it was, what it was in my head. And it was an extraordinary looking film, but the one that was in my head was pretty extraordinary too. I always say that I don't think I would have written Cry Little Sister if I would have seen the film, because, you know, every time I'd watched the film before, it was always, you know, you look at the characters, you get to see the vibe of the thread of how the film was working, and so much of what that song was, Cry Little Sister, was just really in my head. And, so that's sort of how it came about. I'm sorry for the long of it, but I'm trying to keep myself awake here.
Well, maybe that's
so I have a bit of Irish in me, and that's what we do. We talk a lot to be able to keep ourselves awake.
Maybe that's what Joel was thinking, because if you had seen the movie and you wouldn't have written a song for that movie, then he did the right thing by not letting you see the movie. Right?
Well, yeah, that's
the brilliance of Joel.
Synergy would have it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I was going to say was The Lost Boys being 30 years old is like a quintessentially 80s piece, and everything looks really 80s. Cry Little Sister sort of keeps it timeless, because the song wasn't your typical 80s new wave pop song. It was orchestral and choral, and it really kept it rooted in vampire with the little organ thing. Was that always your intention, to keep a nod to the classic, or did you want to make it?
You know, interesting sort of components to that song is that I was trying, you know, I've always like been adventurous about music. I've always tried to, it's not like trying to push the envelope, it's like just creative aspect of which we do. You know, I mean, I tend to want to make something sound unique and have its own style. And that always kind of got in my way as an artist coming up in the 80s, because I was a bit different than the rest of everybody else, but that's okay. You know, I had a lot of good fortune of people like Cameron Crowe and people being attracted to my work and my music, and, you know, in the film world, and had, you know, the likes of Kiss record my songs and this, that, and the other. But when it came to Cry Little Sister, I just wanted to give something that was uniquely different. And mind you, when I was doing the production on this thing, I didn't have any idea what the film looked like at this point. So, but yeah, you know, I was laughing to myself when I wrote the choir. I thought, wow, this will never work. But I did, you know. So all these little things that I didn't think would work, actually, and you know, I'd give it a go. It actually ended up being the right thing. I don't know how to explain that in better terms. It's just, sometimes when you're creating something, you think it, like Lost Boys seemed like it had a sense of humor about it, but even though the choir, to me, had a sense of humor, you know, and I was trying to create sort of a sensibility of it being eerie and at the same time, you know, creating the innocence of what these vampires were. Not only were they badass vampires, but they had a sense of innocence to them too, because you don't there's not much dialogue going on with all the vampires. I'm doing a musical, A Lost Boys Story now, which comes out next year, and I've written all the music and created a bit of a backstory. And in the musical, we get more into the characters of what, certainly what Laddie is, and Star, and their relationship, and also David's relationship with Laddie, which, in the movie you don't see any of that, and it didn't matter, because that movie is so badass, it should just be its rebellious sort of vampire way that it is. But in a musical, we get a bit more of what, a bit more of a story, and it's still got a sense of humor, and it's also got a sense of, horror with the angst of horror. So, enough about me. What did you think of my last movie? Never mind. So, Jamison, can I ask a question?
Yeah, well, why not? Fine.
I know the answer already, but I want to give it to the folks.
Right, totally.
So I'm going to ask you a question. When you came on to audition for Lost Boys, what did you think? What was going through your mind?
Cool. This is good question. I don't know if any of you saw. I sent a video to that I think that this convention published about where I was. I took this video a couple days ago in front of Warner Brothers, and it was sort of a description of like, hey, this is where I was when I auditioned, and I just kind of walked in there, and there I saw, I met the casting director, and Joel was Joel was there to hear me read, and Corey Feldman was right there, in the waiting area, and it was like pretty wild because I kind of knew who he was. I was not quite sure, but I kind of knew who he was. And the whole thing was, from that moment forward, it was really kind of a trip because I had seen these actors. I saw Corey Haim and Lucas, and all of a sudden I was in this world of this really big film, this great film, with Joel Schumacher yelling at everybody, but in a loving way, and creating this cool thing, and it was pretty wild. I mean, I didn't, at the time, I didn't really read the whole script through. I liked, at the time, I thought I was reading the whole script through, but I didn't really understand what was going on. So I kind of thought it was more about
you were quite young, too.
Yeah, I was. I was 15 when I first came across the script.
I was 12 when I wrote the script.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that seems about right.
But I was a lot brighter than you at 12.
Yeah. Well, you're still pretty bright.
It's amazing. We didn't meet until years later, and that was really interesting. I mean, I didn't meet any of the other Lost Boys at the time. The interesting thing was, in and around the time the movie came out, I actually came back over to England to work with Robert Plant on a solo album, and his daughter had heard Cry Little Sister, and that's how he heard of me, and rang me up, and that was pretty surreal. Would you like to come over and work with me? We were born in the same hospital, so we didn't know each other, Birmingham, the whole thing. But I didn't meet everybody in Lost Boys till later. Kiefer came to a show of mine, and it was just this incredible way in which to get all the real stories of what happened when they were on set. Because I didn't know all the things. I knew that Joel yelled lovingly.
Yeah, lovingly. Yeah, everybody. It's funny. As we do these panels, everybody. That's kind of one common theme is that Joel was always yelling at us, but he was doing it because Joel had this vision, and we didn't know what the vision was. All we kind of were responsible for our part of the vision, but he was the one who was the kind of puppet master and creating it all. So I forgive him for yelling at us so much. Corey Feldman took the brunt of the yelling, I think, actually.
Have you got any good stories from the set of the Lost Boys you could share with us? Maybe not too slanderous or libelous.
Yeah, sure. Well, and some of these things are there's a new book, I don't know if anybody has seen it. Someone's selling it here, I think.
Lost in the Shadows.
Yeah, and it's a
by Paul Davis.
Yeah, it's really, I got to flip through one. I haven't gotten my copy yet, but I will. He says we're going to get copies. We'll see. And so some of these stories are in that, but one great story is that one of the scenes, one of the comic book store scenes, we were just kind of a little bit low energy, and it turned out that Corey Feldman had stayed up all night and came to the set, and he was, Joel got really mad at Corey when he found out, because I guess we were kind of low energy in the scene, so it was, he finds out that Corey Feldman didn't sleep, and he was like, he pulls us aside, he was like, you didn't sleep last night? And, Corey didn't have anything to say except, I'm sorry. And he looks at me and he was like, how about you? Did you sleep? And I was like, 8 hours. Yeah, I slept 8 hours.
So that's where it all began.
Yeah, it's true. I know. That's where the rivalry began with me and Feldman in that scene.
It was a rivalry?
Well, okay.
I think we need to know about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Corey, him and Corey Feldman really were the ones that had the rivalry. The healthy rivalry. Because they were both stars. I mean, I wasn't a star, and so I kind of stayed out of the rivalry thing a little bit. But internally, I had my own kind of little rivalry with them that they didn't really know about. But
yeah, well, you came off very cool. Don't you think he came off really cool in the movie, everybody?
I would say so.
No,
And also, Ian made a good point recently when we were rewatching The Lost Boys as research, to be professional. He reckons one of the first times a comic book store was sort of portrayed on the screen as like, I'm cool. It's like, that's now like Big Bang Theory and stuff like that. Everyone's a geek in its sound, but you were like the original comic nerd.
yeah.
It's the original Kevin Smith.
Yeah, well before Clerks and Mallrats. It was you, man.
Right. I mean, I do think that it's like another thing that Lost Boys kind of made okay for people was to be a bit of a nerd, because the Frog Brothers, I mean, we were total nerds. And then, one of the things I realized, we did a convention in Indianapolis about a month ago, and I realized that it was the moment when we killed Alex Winter that you realize, like, wait a minute, these guys are serious. These guys are these comic book nerds, but they're badass, and they're not kidding around,
That's right, man. If you rip someone's copy of Superman, you're gonna slap. So
Right.
it's they're pretty badass.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and you can see, one of the genius things that Schumacher did was having our parents in the scene just as these hippies, just sitting there, and that was like, he just kind of created that. It was his inspiration, partly because Santa Cruz was in a bit of a time warp at the time. So that was the 80s, and it was sort of stuck in the 60s. So yeah, and they were real like hippie communities, like genuine, like from the 60s hippie communities.
They're still stuck in the 60s.
Are they really? Yeah, I haven't been up there recently, but
When I was doing a bit of reading about the town of Santa Cruz, all the stuff in the film where he says Santa Carla's the murder capital of the world. Apparently Santa Cruz had that reputation, and the town mayor made the people of the makers of the Lost Boys change the name because they didn't want any more bad publicity.
Yeah, that I know.
yeah,
That's really
that's
cool.
true.
Definitely some secret vampires in Santa Cruz that they don't want anyone to know about.
Yeah.
You could have blown the lid off the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I had this idea for a Lost Boys, a sort of a quasi Lost Boys sequel that somehow when we were shooting the movie, we opened up a kind of like a rift in reality or something, and then these demons were kind of coming through, and the rest of our lives, we, the actors, were haunted by these demons. So I still might do that movie.
That's interesting.
Sounds good, right?
I'd be
see it?
Yeah.
You
I
do
could
a
be a
musical?
series. You could make a series out of it.
Well,
Couldn't you?
It's like a metaphor for being tortured by the legacy of the Lost Boys following you around.
Right, exactly.
Creeps like me won't leave you alone.
Yeah.
30 years. Hey man, tell me about the Lost Boys.
Exactly, yeah, it's true, and it's enjoyable.
How lost can you be?
Yeah, that's a good title for it.
There you go, baby.
Yeah,
Hey, you got someone to do the music.
I've got a lot of good ideas, mate.
I know. G is full of good ideas.
One thing I got to say, in a musical, I know I sound like I'm promoting it, but I am. There's a song called Frog Bro Hero, and there's a part of me sometimes, can I write comedy? And I was pissing myself as I was writing this song. I swear to God, it was one of those things that just flowed out. And I played it to my co-producer, Gab, and I said, I don't know if this will work. He said, oh, it fucking works, man. You got to do this. And it really came out. It's very Tim Burton-esque, when you hear it. It's got a bit of that, thing. That, so
She's been sending me a couple of tracks from this new musical, and it sounds great. I'm really excited for it. But it's like he's killing it with this. Rock Hero's awesome, and can I say the name of the other?
Death by Stereo.
Yeah, Death by Stereo, which I realized, Death by Stereo, like you're kind of capturing it, but that's like the 80s in a nutshell, Death by Stereo, I think.
You got Frog Hero as your ringtone by any chance? You got Frog Hero as your ringtone by any chance?
See, I'm still, I've only been in England for a day, so it's still, I can't quite always understand. But yeah, for a ringtone, yeah.
It's surreal. I mean, come on, you lot have had to have been on a plane for been awake for 24 hours. It's like being on a drug. So yeah, we're real fucking high up here. Called lack of sleep. It's a little pill you take if you stay up all night.
Yeah, exactly. And
I know some guys if you need.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I know some people.
Cool.
So I'm asking this question. Is that what you G?
Well, this is what happened. Nobody can pronounce my name. Well, over here we say Gerard, or in Ireland, Gerard. So by the time I got to America, people were going, "Oh, it's Gerald or Jerry? Do people call you Jerry?" Hey, what? America, as you well know, is like there are different accents all over the country, and then they could never pronounce my last name, McMahon. When I went down south, hey, Jerry McMahon. And I'm going, I don't think that's it. But I didn't know what my name was for the first few years over there. So, and then somebody figured it out. A nun, of all things, figured it out. Said, oh, it's Gerard McMahon. I said, really? No, that's not it either. But that's how they say it in America. So anyway, I changed it up. I was going to change it to G-Tom Mac on Lost Boys, actually, because at that point my manager said, that's a career, that you could kill your career. And I said, what career? At that time, people kind of knew I was just sort of a critic's darling, if you will, in America, having done, as an artist and a songwriter, but nothing had really happened, so to speak, at that point, other than a lot of famous people recording my songs. But, so, at one point I had an epiphany. Gerard Thomas McMahon. Okay, that's way too difficult for people, so I went G-Tom Mac. And that's how it all got figured out. So
that's awesome. I had a pal who changed his name a few times, but it was mainly to avoid the student loans. So when I was researching it on the internet, I thought that might have been what it was. So Jared Tom McMahon, G-Tom Mac. So where I was going with that?
What do you think my real name is?
I mean, I'll call you whatever you want, it's fine.
Just don't call me late for sex.
Oof.
Let me rephrase that. Not you personally, but if you're hooking me up with someone, no, just joke. Come on. Again, trying to keep myself away.
Did you hear the cover version of Cry Little Sister by Aiden? The cover version of Cry Little Sister by Aiden?
I've heard many of them.
Have you got a favourite? I quite like that one.
Well, let's just say when Eminem called me to sample me in You're Never Over, and then we ended up having the song You're Never Over, and he had me come in and work on the chorus and all that. That was pretty amazing. I mean, I loved what he did. I'm a big Eminem fan, and that was pure delightful to me. Yeah, I mean, there's been some cool versions. There's a band called Seasons After that did a pretty cool, pop metal version of it. It's hard for me to, yeah, I mean, there's some good versions out there. I can't pick a favorite out right now.
And is it hard, like this is your song, and is that hard for you to hear someone else sing it?
No, it's just, and I'm not stuck on my own version of it, which is the right version.
Exactly, a little bit.
No, I mean, it's so weird with that song because I've had many of the artists come up to me and go, that's a fucking hard song to sing. And I said, really? And I go walk away from it because when I went in the studio and did it, I did it in like 2 takes. Not to say it was, but when being a writer of it, I knew the soul of that song. And it was a sense of it, it's so, it's for the movie, but I felt that song deeply when I performed it in the studio. I'll never forget the night I did it. And It was just one of those magical moments. Yeah, recorded in New York City at Len McLady Studios.
Was you aware of how many times it was going to be in the film? Because let's be honest, it's... Was you aware of how many times it was going to be in the film? Because it's pretty synonymous with the film, isn't it?
I'll tell you an interesting story. Joel, when we finally got around time to put the song in the movie, he wanted it everywhere. And at one point I thought, well, this is getting overkill, you know, and I said, you might want to think about less is more. And I said, you're the director. And he said, no. He said, well, I just love it. And finally found a balance as to where it was. Even in the beginning of the film, my voice was in there originally, and I didn't like the idea of being, I should, you know, always felt that the choir should be there. And I thought the important part was where Joel did place it, in the middle of the film, where the relationship between Michael and Star, you know, and you get a bit of a montage with David in there as well. I've always loved that whole idea of the trilogy. In the musical, you get to know a bit more about the Star and her whole, you know, she's a lot stronger as in the musical, but she was always strong in the movie as well. She had a serious power over these two guys, you know, even David, even though you don't get that with David. But you know, she's girl power! You know, it was. You know, but anyway,
Talk about
to answer your question, it was we got it to a place where it was properly in the right places of the film. And Thomas Newman, who was this musical score guy, he did a great job. You know, we worked together, and he's brilliant. And just sort of taking the score pieces throughout as well to keep the theme going. You know, good for Tom.
So with us being at a horror convention, have you got any fan stories or any like, what's the craziest fan moment you've ever had in relation to the Lost Boys?
Well, so that's, I mean, I don't know that I have a story where like some fan was like attacked me or anything like that, you know.
I did.
Do you really?
Yeah, why wouldn't I? Look at me.
You're right, you're right. I mean, people, I guess, you know, it's a cop-out. This answer's a cop-out, but I guess the biggest fan story is that it's just amazing to be in the presence of so many fans, people who love the movie over the years, multi-generational. I mean, 3 generations, you know, come up to me. Maybe that's it. That, you know, a grandmother and mother and a daughter or something like that, and they're all into the movie and you know, they got each other into the movie and stuff. I think that's probably the significant part for me.
And to add to that, the first time I really noticed that there were fans is it must have been about 91, 92, and Atlantic Records rang me up and said, hey, you've got bags of mail up here. Bags of mail? And because their soundtrack was on Atlantic Records. And so he said, can you come up and get it? Because we're going to throw it out otherwise. And I'm going, all right, then. I'm figuring bags of mail. It was bags of mail. I'm talking, there's duffel bags, you know. And so I went up there with my mate. I said, we've got bags of mail. We've got to pick up at Atlantic Records. You want to come over up now, mate? And so we go up there. We pick up 3 big bags of mail. And on the way back, he started opening up. He said, yep, I was right. That song is larger than life. Look at this. We're going back with opening letters on the cab ride down. And it was unbelievable. And one of the first ones I read was from a girl, I don't know where she was, but her sister had passed on. And then the last song, it was their favorite song. She died of leukemia or something like that. It was the last song she heard before she passed on. And that completely took it out for me. And then I started reading. There was no way. This is internet, all the things we have now, right? But it was just incredible, just to see how many fans there were out there around the world. I mean, it was not just in America; it was everywhere. And of course, as time went on, the fans became. We have what we have today, and we're able to communicate. It's just a great thing. The other thing I wanted to mention. Cradle and Sister wasn't the record company. The record company went to Joel Schumacher and said, "We really need to get the quintessential big guy, this like Steve Perry or this one, and Bill Collins to sing this song. And Joel says, no, he's the voice of my movie. And I thought, well, you know, typical record companies, I knew that they wanted to do that. And you know what? The sound of this record seems to sound too damn futuristic. And my best American record company voice, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Pretty good, right? And so, but Joel Schumacher and God bless him, and Richard Donner, they just said, no way is anybody else singing that. And at that time, I didn't really mind. It was just, hey, whatever, you know. But I ended up being a singer, and here we are. Of my own song.
The right choice, definitely the right choice.
Did you expect the movie to be as big as it was? I probably did. So did you expect the movie to be as big as it was?
Yeah, well, I don't think you can, I mean, maybe you did, but I don't think you can ever know. I mean, you know, because, you know, like I was saying earlier, I knew what my part was and, you know, other parts that I'd seen, but how do you know that it's going to come together so well? How could we know that Joel was going to have this idea of things and make it such a thorough world and everything? So I didn't really have any idea. It was actually, you know what's funny is when I first had a sense of it was when I heard the music, actually. When I heard, you know, that, because they released that early. They released that before the movie came out. And when I heard the music, I was like, this might be a thing. This might be a big deal. So that's you.
Yeah, I did. So mad. That's a nice thing to say. I'm getting all choked up now. Oh dear.
The other question I wanted to ask, because we did get 2 sequels much later on, but when I was doing a bit of research, I came across the fact that they were doing The Lost Girls. Was that, right. Is that true?
Well, there was
what do you know about that?
That was, The Lost Girls, the idea of Lost Girls was being floated around for a long time, right? I mean, even right afterward. I think Joel was behind that, or was part of it?
Kind of, and then I think it was a script written and it was rubbish, and then, you know, Joel was a hired hand really, Joel Schumacher, to do the film. He didn't really own a piece of his own film, which most directors never do. But yeah, it was Lost Girls. So there actually is Lost Boys, the TV series coming out.
I heard that was dead.
Which actually looks like it's going to really be pretty cool.
Is it dead though? Someone was just telling me that it's dead.
I mean, I've been speaking with them. There's a guy named Rob Thomas who is the showrunner who did iZombie and Veronica Mars. And anybody know these series? Anyway, he's really good. He's a really good creative writer, producer. So with any fingers crossed, it could be good.
Well, that was going to be the next
question. It's hard, you know. It's a hard one taking the iconic. Excuse me, man. It's such a, you know, taking that film. I mean, I thought long and hard, 5 years. The first 2 years of writing the musical was like, nah, it's not going to work. You can't. No, you're going to ruin it for the fans. And I went through so much paranoia until I had an epiphany of where it needed to go. So it stayed true to all things what the movie was, but also was able to really give life to the characters, you know, all of them, you know, Michael and Sam's mum, and, you know, and just, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to take that film. You can't, there's no halfway in between. You're either going to fuck it up or it's going to be brilliant. So hopefully my musical is brilliant.
I think it's going to be brilliant.
So far, everybody seems to think I did the right thing by it, so we'll see.
You know what I wanted to just quickly hear, and this is just totally putting G on the spot, but can you do an imitation of any of the characters in the movie, like just off the cuff?
Of characters in the movie?
Yeah, like, you know, like a line that maybe like a Corey Haim line or like a Jason.
I can't do that.
No?
But Michael.
So that's Kiefer, right? That's good.
Michael.
And what about like, hey Sammy, you know, like, don't tell her anything, Sammy.
Musical album, actually. There's some really cool, what we've done with it, just so you know, is there's pieces of dialogue that goes in between the songs. So you'll get a gist as to what the musical's about to some degree with all the characters, which was really a lot of fun to do with some wonderful actors and actresses that came in, and I won't tell you who they are, you have to guess as you listen to it, but you will soon find out. But anyway, yeah. Any other questions?
Well, before we open it up to the floor, I was going to ask yourself, before you told me there was a TV show, I was going to say, if they were remaking The Lost Boys today, who would you want to play your part?
Oh, that's good. I like it. I think Justin Bieber. I think I'd rather be. I don't know. Let me give it some.
Justin Bieber would be Corey Hale, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Can they kind of look alike?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I can't think of. Yeah, I know. Justin Bieber would actually be. Maybe let's call him.
And a Canadian.
Perfect. So
I know my stuff.
For my part, God, I can't think. My mind's a blank. I mean, what do you think? What do you guys think?
Would you want like a comedy double act? Like Michael Cera and Jonah Hill? Maybe those guys?
Yeah, Jonah Hill. Yeah, Jonah Hill.
Would that be too funny though?
Yeah, maybe you're right. We take it too far. I don't know. Well, maybe that'll be part of the, when we take questions from the audience, maybe the first thing.
They would have the answer.
Yeah,
they
true.
Or get a good proximity to who should be.
I think that's right. We'll crowdsource it.
Yeah, we'll do like a poll, like a Twitter poll.
Yeah. Secret ballot.
Who would be the better vampire killer?
Pennywise. I think Pennywise over there's got the answer.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
you?
It's tripping me out. Yeah, like.
Will life ever be the same after you, mate? Or is it a female? I can't tell.
So before we do move on to the audience questions, is there anything else you'd like to talk about from the making of the movie? More than 30 years since it's been out. Any favourite moments? Any standouts? Anyone you want to get in trouble?
Well, I don't know. No, I mean, I don't have anything I don't have anything scandalous. I wish I did. I mean, I was like,
yeah, you do. Come on, make it up.
No.
Even if it's not true.
I'm not
It's
good.
good.
I'm not
Give
good
him
making that
something.
stuff up.
What do you think of Corey Feldman's music career?
So here's, okay, I'll talk about that.
I knew you had it in you.
No, I mean,
Let's see, but
there was a time early in Corey Feldman's music career, I was like, come on, Corey, like, people do this. Like, there are people who are musicians, and you're an actor, and, are you really serious about this? But the last show that I saw of his, I was like, you know what? Feldman's learning, I think he's learning how to be a rock star a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying he's at the level of rock star yet. I'm not saying that. But he's getting...
Don't look at me.
He's getting a little closer. Well, you are a rock star, so you...
Am I? Yeah, you're right.
You are, G. Tom Mack, I mean, come on, that's rock star, So there's that. Okay, the other thing is I wanted to say is that in terms of when we were talking about people doing covers of Cry Little Sister, right, I'm going to come out with like a big band, right? We talked about this, a big band cover version of like...
You really haven't slept.
So I'm going to do a little bit of just a quick... Last fire will rise behind those eyes. Like big, like...
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Sounded like Christopher Walken, like.
You know what? I slip into Christopher Walken a little bit sometimes.
Come here, some walking.
Yeah, I... See, now when I'm on the spot, I can't do it, but this watch was your birthright, so he didn't want...
We get some Christopher Walken as a frog brother.
Oh yeah, I'll try it. That's a good idea.
Try Little Sister.
Last fire will rise behind those eyes.
It's by G. Tom Mack.
Yeah. It's by G. Tom Mack. He's a great guy, terrific musician, and kill your brother, you'll feel better.
Brilliant! We got to do this more when we drink.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Later at the pub.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
So we've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to send it into the audience, if that's okay. Has anyone got any questions?
Get those hands up in the air.
You did such a good job of answering anything that might have been on your mind.
Throw your hands up in the air and I'll come and find you.
And remember, at the beginning, you're always welcome to say who would play my character.
Yeah, that's right.
Who would play my character.
Come on, you got me for an idea. Anyone at all?
Anything, like any thoughts, how you're doing today?
Hi guys.
Hello.
Back in 2010, we were all quite shocked to lose Corey Hames abruptly. Were you guys still in contact with him and close to his net?
Yeah, we were. The thing so basically, the Lost Boys, a lot of us were not in touch for a long time. And then in 2007, for the 20th anniversary, we all did a big show together. He wasn't with us, you weren't like part of that in crowd yet, right? But we, so then that was when I got back in touch with Corey Haim. We were all kind of back in touch with Corey Haim. And what I was always struck by with Corey Haim is that he's such a nice guy. I mean, in person, if anybody has met him, so sweet. Always, whenever I saw him, he was always compliments, and, which is maybe my thing. Like I like to be complimented, but he was always just really sweet and very genuine, and it's something that maybe is obvious. It might be obvious to fans, but to me, it always struck me. And so I thought that Corey Haim was kind of about to I feel like he was on the rise again, and that we were going to see some really great work from him again. So that was part of the tragedy of losing him then.
Okay, thank you.
And to that point, I didn't meet a lot of these guys because I was living in New York at the time, but I met Corey later on. And he had a wonderful soul, and I felt so bad that he, had gone down this sort of dark path, and I did at one time kind of wanted to help him get through that. This is before he passed on, and sort of therapeutically he had a great little voice, which, I gave him a place to stay for a while. We ended up just sitting around hanging out. There was so much brilliance in him, and it's just too soon with all the loss.
You put him up for a little while, right? He lived in your place.
That's what I said. We didn't live at my place. We lived at
he and his mom, right?
An apartment at my studio. Then.
Yeah, it's nice. That was a nice thing. I mean, I didn't do that for him.
And he behaved himself. He was really well. I mean, it was really. But he was behaving himself. I said, listen, no drugs around here. None of that nonsense. And he really stuck to the plan. And I think it's just, I think it was just that he was just wonderful. I'm glad I got to see that side of him, and I got to see, and as far as all the other Lost Boys, as we got to know each other over the years through these conventions, they've all become friends. And the great Brooke McCarter, who's no longer with us, became my drummer. He was an incredibly talented person, and sad to have seen him pass on a couple of years ago as well. I mean, he became a dear friend, as Billy Worth and some of the others as well.
Yeah, we get a chance to hang out, all of us together, and it was great when it was all of us, and then we lost Corey, and then we lost Brooke, and it hurts, each one of these things. I mean, every time we do a convention, it hurts again in that way, because we remember doing these conventions with them, so.
Yeah. And nowadays, when we go out and do these things, it's Billy who isn't here, unfortunately, because his mum's not doing well. And so you got me and him.
Yeah, that's just that.
Any more questions?
This guy over there.
How you doing, guys? You all right?
Hey.
I was just wondering why there was like a massive delay between Lost Boys 1 and Lost Boys 2. And also, is there any more developments for Lost Boys for the next one? I think have you done 3 already?
We did 3, yeah.
Yeah, I thought I saw 3. It was, I think it's touched on werewolves as well or something.
Yeah, well, so I think to answer the first part of the question, like G was saying earlier, Joel Schumacher had ideas for Lost Boys 2, and I think different people had ideas, but you had Joel Schumacher, you had Richard Donner, you had Warner Brothers, and a lot of, there were a lot of cooks, in the kitchen, so to speak. And so I think that think what happened is that they couldn't agree. Do you think I'm interpreting it right?
Well, yeah, you are. And how many people out there were fans of the Tribe? You put your hands up? Ooh. Well, you feel the same way I do. Oh, except that somebody putting her hand up. No, she's just rubbing her hair. The Freddie Krueger one over there. And you're a girl, aren't you? Good for you, though. I saw that movie. They wanted me to come back and, contractually, I didn't have to sing it, but contractually, they had rights to use it in other Warner Brothers product, which is Lost Boys. And so they wanted me to sing it, and maybe I looked at it and I just said, rubbish! And with all due respect, really the story of that was Warner Brothers, the DVD sales at that time, I'll let you know, they just said, let's make a film for $4 million and just put it out, and we'll get this one, that one, and get that director, and we'll just make a Lost Boys 2 and just sell it straight to DVD. And by the way, they made a shitload of money off of that. But there was no way I was going to have my voice in that movie, even though the rights, they had some band come in and do it and cover it. But they came back to me later and said, we need validation, would you at least do a video, and maybe, so I said, well, if you're paying for it, and I did a little clip that was on the bonus for it, which I didn't mind doing. But yeah, like I said earlier, it's a very tough movie to get. It's not a tough movie. It's just the right talent behind it. When I saw Get Out, have we all seen Get Out? Great film. That was made for $5 million. If you got that guy to come in and make Lost Boys 2, that would have been the movie, right? I get that he would have made that properly.
Yeah, I think it was the sequel. By the time they got around to making the sequels, I think they approached it a little short-sighted, and they were saying they were like maybe wanting to make a quick buck rather than being like, wait a minute here, there's a much bigger possibility that we can do with it. And it would be great if they did that with 4. I don't know that there's going to be a 4, but at the same time, Paul Davis, who wrote the book, the 30th anniversary book, he's got an idea for 4.
It's a good one.
Yeah, really good idea. And the thing about him is that I was telling someone else about this, he knows everybody now because he interviewed all of us. So he's in touch with Joel and Richard Donner and a lot of people at Warner Brothers. So if anybody.
But after all, he is British, so he would be good.
Yeah, you're right. Anybody British is good. I think that's.
In America, they think we're so much smarter over there because we have these accents. God, listen to them talk. That's our intelligence, is our how we speak.
Jokes.
Unless you're from Birmingham, of course. Just joking.
We've got time for one more question. So, Ian, with this chap down the front.
He's up to the cardio today, hasn't he?
What? Yes, sir. Do stand up.
Thank you.
Nice t-shirt.
Cheers. Thank you for coming as well. Cheers. Obviously, massive fans. Obviously, Lost Boys is littered with references to Peter Pan and the numerous names and motifs and themes that appear there to do with the Peter Pan lore. Initially, was this something that Joel Schumacher was making slightly more explicit in the film, or was the idea that just drop these sort of ideas and let the audience pick away?
So your question was it? So my understanding of you're talking about the relation to Peter Pan.
Yeah, the names.
I think that's where it sprang from. I think that's where the writers originally were thinking, and then I think that it moved. And this is a little conjecture. You may know more.
Well, you're hitting on something that's actually in the musical, because I had a conversation, with Joel Schumacher a month ago. He wanted to hear all the music I'd done and seen, and that was the most nerve-wracking 3 days to have to go, oh my God, maybe he's just going to hate it. He rang me back. I get his assistant says, I got Joel Schumacher on the line. And my adrenaline level, I having an out-of-body experience. I'm having one now, but that was far more worse. And he gets on the phone, he says, well, you've outdone yourself. That was his opening line. He said, your song, Once Upon, I never thought there could be a brother to Cry Little Sister, and Once Upon is one of the main songs in my musical. But with the Peter Pan reference, it didn't, there was that in the film. But they really didn't. They were trying to. I know really when I spoke with Joel, they pulled back off of that, and Laddie had a lot to do with that. In my musical, Laddie is 1,000 years old, and that's what we find out. I mean, then you get to know the relationship with him and Star, and how David sees a lot of himself. David was a very lonely, even though he had that rebellious thing in the musical. Even Kiefer said to me one day, he said, I always felt, even though he was putting on this persona, he felt very lonely. And I've got that when I was reading the script. And so we get into that with the musical with David. He's immortalized and he hates the idea of going on like this forever. And he looks at Laddie and has no wisdom, but Laddie wants wisdom. There's a song called This Neverland, which he's never, he can't get past the age of 9. And David wants to be innocent, and Laddie wants wisdom. So it's that bit of a thing that goes on in the musical. So, but again, the musical gets into a bit of the sort of philosophical and sort of intellect factor, but it's not driving that home. The worst thing you can do in a vampire movie is to keep Act 1 and Act 2 just pounding them with horror and pounding them with intellect. This movie and this premise of this wonderful script and film is based on fun and some smarts, and and I think that to go back to your point about that, if it would have been, if the Peter Pan element was to be had in the movie, I think Cry Little Sister became more of the Peter Pan thing, and that's what I didn't even know about the Peter Pan thing till later, but it was interesting when I thought to myself later in the aftermath of that of just creating a choir, So, anyway.
Just a side little note on this little bit of trivia, that when I auditioned for the role of Alan Frog, I was doing Peter Pan at my high school.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that a trip?
I've known you all these years and not known that.
I know. I keep forgetting to say it.
Peter Frog.
I was, Smithers, I think was. I was a made-up name, but I was one of the Lost Boys, actually, in Peter Pan. Yeah.
And that is an incredible way for us to wrap up the panel, from the Lost Boys to the Lost Boys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks a lot, guys. And my musical album comes out in November.
And you can obviously go find Jamison and G at their tables over there.
And I'm performing here later. So, yeah.